Shabbat Shalom, which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. Welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. When we truly look out and see what's going on in the earth, we know that we're getting closer and closer to the redemption of the children of Israel, and we can see that the nations are getting more leeway to do things against the children of Israel, because we know that these people are getting ready to celebrate their freedom, their Independence Day, and our people get caught up into celebrating those things, and we were not free. It wasn't freedom for us whatsoever, and because it is listed that even in their official documents that we were not considered men. The natives that were here were not considered men. So they were able to rationalize all of the things that they do unto us. I was looking at a video this morning as I was posting today's sermon, and it was a video of a man having I think he had a stroke while he was driving, and he ended up, hitting a street sign and whatnot. And of course, he's discombobulated. The police tasers the older man, then sprays him with pepper spray. Says that he was not obeying the commands. Meanwhile, the man is having a stroke. Then, as they put him on the ground, they then don't put his car in park and roll over his foot. And we know about the Philando Castile, where they did not prosecute the man, but they did, give his family $3 million. So it's one of the things where they're not going to discipline anybody for hurting us. And as it is written, it will come a time when the people who kill you will believe that they do Elohim a service. They believe that they're doing God a favor by doing these things. And at the end of the day, if we're not able to look at these things and understand that we have to get back to our culture as much as we possibly can, because this is what has gotten us into this mess, to where people can harm us in the middle of the daylight while cameras are rolling and still absolutely nothing happens. This is just like the times of slavery. You could not prosecute a white man for killing his slave because it was his property. And we see that although we have a lot of possessions, we have decent houses, we have nice cars, but we have forgotten what these people brought us here for. And America is not letting go of their that syndrome that they have, where they believe that we're always trying to get some kind of get back. So they feel threatened by us immediately. It seems like the police are the scariest people on the planet because they shoot for any particular thing, but that shooting all seems to happen to just us. But brother, would you read the oracles and entreat the angel that stands at the door to come in and sup with us and us with him, that we may make this a holy convocation by the angel's presence?
1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober and watch unto prayer. And above all things, have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua the Mashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim as dear children, and walk in love as the Mashiach also have loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becomes saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather given of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth. Therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you to keep you in the way, and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame, and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right, it is written that obedience is better than sacrifice. With that being said, some teach that sacrifices have been done away with. But when we examine what is written in the volume of the book, we find that sacrifices have changed from natural in nature into spiritual in nature. These spiritual sacrifices that we offer up unto our Elohim are a humble and contrite spirit. It takes this kind of spirit to embrace obedience. Circumcision was given as a token of the covenant, but a better covenant was made, so a better circumcision was necessary as well. Let's begin today's sermon in James chapter 1. James chapter 1, and we're going to start that at verse 1. And today's sermon is entitled Circumcision of the Heart.
Yaakov chapter 1 and verse 1. Yaakov, a servant of Elohim and of the Adonai, Yahshua the Mashiach. To the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greetings. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith works patience.
And this is something that we have to allow to happen. The trying of your faith works patience. And when it comes down to fighting in a spiritual war, you have to understand that timing is very important. And we have to get ourselves to the point where we're able to allow Yahweh to direct us. And things don't always go at the time frame that you want them. Matter of fact, they probably ain't never going to go at the time frame that you want them. Go ahead.
But let patience have her perfect work, that you may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of Elohim, that gives to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. But let him ask in faith, nothing wavering. For he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed.
Now, you listen to this and reading it from verse 5 to verse 6. It sounds like, okay, if you pray for something, you have to have faith in that what you are praying for. And then, of course, we read about having patience. Let me tell you something. As we get through more and more of this sermon, you're going to come across some things where it took years for Yahweh to give them things that he had promised. So you have to understand there might be some things that you're praying for that you have to be willing to wait on Yahweh to do. We, of course, believe that we're ready for everything. So when we pray for something, we're ready for it to happen before the sun go down. And that's not how that works. And I've been in those situations, and the adversary, the devil, will put you in those situations where you're going to pray about it, but at the same time, you're like, all right, Yahweh, I need this done by, 7:15. It's 7:10 now. That ain't going to work. And the adversary will put you in those things. That's why everything that you see on sale, they always tell you limited time only. They need you to make that decision, an impulse decision right then and there, without thinking, without praying, without patience, without anything. Hurry up and do it now. And it's going to end if you don't do it right now. Go ahead.
Verse 7. For let not that man think that he shall receive anything of the Adonai. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Let the brother of low degree rejoice in that he is exalted, but the rich in that he is made low, because as the flower of the grass he shall pass away. For the sun is no sooner risen with a burning heat, but it withereth the grass, and the flower thereof falls, and the grace of the fashion of it perish. So also shall the rich man fade away in his ways. Blessed is the man that endures temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Adonai has promised to them that love him. Let no man say when he's tempted, I am tempted of Elohim. For Elohim cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempts he any man. But every man is tempted when he's drawn away of his own lust and enticed.
Every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. And do understand, the adversary, the devil, know what we're working with, so he know how to entice us. He ain't gonna offer you nothing you don't like. Go ahead.
Then when lust has conceived, it brings forth sin. And sin, when it is finished, brings forth death.
Right. The wages, which is payment for sin, is death. Something has to die. There has to be an atonement made when sin is committed. So it's not necessarily that death is the death of the person who sinned, but something got to die. To have atonement, something, blood has to be shed. So now something's got to die because you sinned. Sin brings forth death. That's what animal sacrifice was about. And then you had the Messiah who came forth and brought this one sacrifice to take care of all of those things. But do understand what that's talking about. That's more than on one level. People think when you read that, they're like, oh, you sin, you die. No, something got to die. Go ahead.
James chapter 1 and verse 16. Do not err, my beloved brethren. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, and comes down from the Father of lights, with whom is no variableness, neither shadow of turning. Of his own will begat he us with the word of truth, that we should be a kind of firstfruits of his creatures. Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. For the wrath of man works not the righteousness of Elohim. Wherefore lay apart all filthiness and superfluity of naughtiness, and receive with meekness the engrafted word, which is able to save your souls. But be you doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. For if any man be a hearer of the word, and not a doer, he's like unto a man beholding his natural face in a glass. For he beholds himself, and goeth his way, and straightway forgets what manner of man he was. But whoso looks into the perfect law of liberty, and continueth therein, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deed. If any man among you seem to be religious, and bridleth not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart, this man's religion is vain. Pure religion and undefiled before Elohim and the Father is this, to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction, and to keep themselves unspotted from the world.
Now, when we look at this for, if any be a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is likened unto a man who sees his face in a mirror, but then walks away and forget what he looked like. That's what hearing the word but not being a doer of it is likened unto. Let's go to Genesis chapter 6. Genesis chapter 6, and let's read verses 1 through 8.
Verse 1. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of Elohim saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose.
Now, people take this and they end up getting this way out of context. Keep reading.
And Yahweh said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years.
Now, people don't see this as grace, because you have men living up to 900 years. You have to understand the amount of sin that a man is able to commit in that time frame. So they don't see the grace in cutting down man's lifespan so that man is not able to commit that large number of sins that he cannot possibly cover. Go ahead.
There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that.
And also after that, this is a totally different statement. Go ahead.
When the sons of Elohim came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown.
Right. So Yahweh has given that his holy seed, they're supposed to marry certain kind of women. So you have the sons of Elohim, which are those of the holy seed, which follow the word that Yahweh has given unto them. Then you got the daughters of regular men. So basically, you got holy men who went out in the street and said, "Ooh, she fine," and there you go. So now they married, and now all of their spiritual gift has now turned to regular stuff. Now they all about being great in the earth in natural things. See that when you talk about how Yahweh did eventually deal with the priesthood, those men had to deal with certain women, because we know that the women affect how the men are going to be able to move. And if the man is married to the wrong type of woman and he is in the priesthood, or he's of the holy seed, there's going to be some problems there. So Yahweh has always been pretty particular when it comes down to dealing with the holy seed and who they deal with, because the beginning gift that he gave man, he said it wasn't good for the man to be alone, so he gave him a helpmeet. First thing man did was let the helpmeet override Yahweh. So of course Yahweh gonna say, no. You need to marry certain kind of women, because you got a problem. See, once you get a woman, you don't seem to follow the things that you're supposed to have. Go ahead.
Genesis chapter 6 and verse 5. And Elohim saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented Yahweh that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And Yahweh said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repents me that I have made them.
Right. Now what the animals do? See, something always got to die every time you don't do what you're supposed to do. He didn't say it repented me that I made these animals. Man, they out here eating their grass, peeing on trees. No, they doing what they supposed to do. That's what he made them to do. No, man was the problem. Once again, something else got to die because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. Go ahead.
But Noah found grace in the eyes of Yahweh.
Noah found grace in the eyes of Yahweh even before there was any law. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 17, because you have a lot of people And we hear it a lot. It is a very common term. God knows my heart. So people have begun to use this as their excuse to do whatever it is they want to do. Now, I love myself some Tupac, and he had that song, Only God Can Judge Me. And a whole lot of people were doing a whole lot of evil, and as they was quoting the words to that song, only God can judge me, and he shall. Don't you worry about that, and he shall. Don't you worry your pretty little heart. He gonna take care of that business. Jeremiah 17, and let's read verse 9.
The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it?
They said, God knows my heart. Yeah, according to this, he knows it's desperately wicked. That's what he knows about your heart. And this is what people are using to drive them, the imagination of their own heart. But you have to deal with the imagination of your own heart if you're telling people that the commandments are done away with. You don't really have to deal with the commandments. So then people just get to say that we imagine what's right, or we imagine what we're supposed to do. Go to Jeremiah 17 and verse 10.
I, Yahweh, search the heart. I try the reins, even to give every man according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doings.
And that's the answer to that whole thing. When you talk about only God can judge me, that's what he said. I, Yahweh, search the heart. I tried the reins, even to give every man according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doings. Same thing Yahshua said. You shall reap what you have sown. Whatever you plant, that's what's going to grow. And understand, Yahweh's not going to run out of time. So by the time we end up dealing with the things that we've put out, a lot of times we've forgotten that we've done it. So when we're going and we're seeking and when we're praying about something, we have to remember what that is, because it may be a couple of years before Yahweh actually gives you that thing. You may believe that you're ready for it right now, but you have to consider, maybe it ain't ready for you. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 4. See, that's something that we don't consider. And something that ain't ready for you ain't going to do nothing but cause you nothing but problem. A cake is delicious when it's cooked at the time that it's supposed to be cooked at. But you take it out of that oven about an hour early, you got some mess. You got some hot mess. That's what you got. It wasn't ready for you. Jeremiah chapter 4, and let's start that at verse 1.
If you will return, O Israel, saith Yahweh, return unto me, and if you will put away your abominations out of my sight, then shall you not remove.
Right. Israel was created to be a servant. If you are created to be a servant, you are going to serve. Now, the question is whether or not you're going to serve Yahweh, or whether you're going to serve the adversary, the devil, or whether you're going to serve your enemy. One way or another, you were created to serve. This is why these people went all the way across the globe to come and get you. You were born, you were made for servitude, but you were made for holy servitude. But because you didn't do that, that then made us open with Yahweh's heads removed away from us. It made us open to be the servants of the heathens. Because understand something, they came here, they tried to make the natives servants, and that didn't work out. And you can look at the other people as we even encounter other nations on the earth. We find out they ain't built for servitude. When you talk about all of the things that the people had to go through to build these cities in Egypt and all of those, you don't see other people with the capability to even be able to do that. Go ahead.
Verse 2. And you shall swear, Yahweh lives, in truth, in judgment, and in righteousness, and the nations shall bless themselves in him, and in him shall they glory. For thus said Yahweh to the men of Yehuda and Jerusalem, break up your fallow ground, and sow not among thorns.
Right. Before you plant, you got to break up the ground so that that seed can go in there and sow not among thorns. Those thorns is people we like to hang around. Oh, this is my friend. We want to take the word to, oh, this is my family. Right. They thorns. Go ahead.
Circumcise yourselves to Yahweh, and take away the foreskins of your heart, you men of Yehuda and inhabitants of Jerusalem.
Now, this Old Testament, and he's already talking about circumcising your heart. So all of these things that men want to deal with, like it's old covenant law, he was already trying to take the old law to a higher level that they could not reach. Go ahead.
Lest my fury come forth like fire, and burn that none can quench it, because of the evil of your doings. Declare you in Yehuda, and publish in Jerusalem, and say, blow you the trumpet in the land. Cry, gather together, and say, assemble yourselves, and let us go into the defenced cities. Set up the standard toward Zion. Retire, stay not, for I will bring evil from the north, and a great destruction. The lion is come up from his thicket, and the destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way. He is gone forth from his place to make your land desolate, and your cities shall be laid waste without an inhabitant. For this gird you with sackcloth, lament and howl, for the fierce anger of Yahweh is not turned back from us.
For this gird you with sackcloth, lament and howl. So when they were mourning, then like we read before, they would cover their faces with ash, fast, gird themselves with sackcloth to punish themselves, to deny themselves, so that it would put them in a situation where it may be possible for Yahweh to hear them when they humble themselves. Go ahead.
Verse 9. And it shall come to pass at that day, saith Yahweh, that the heart of the king shall perish, and the heart of the princes, and the priests shall be astonished, and the prophets shall wonder. Then said I, Adonai Yahweh, surely you have greatly deceived this people and Jerusalem, saying, you shall have peace, whereas the sword reacheth unto the soul. At that time shall it be said to this people and to Jerusalem, a dry wind of the high places in the wilderness toward the daughter of my people, not to fan, nor to cleanse. Even a full wind from those places shall come unto me. Now also will I give sentence against them. Behold, he shall come up as clouds, and his chariot shall be as a whirlwind. His horses are swifter than eagles. Woe unto us, for we are spoiled. O Jerusalem, wash your heart from wickedness, that you may be saved. How long shall your vain thoughts lodge within you? For a voice declares from Dan, and publish affliction from Mount Ephraim. Make you mention to the nations, behold, publish against Jerusalem, that watchers come from a far country, and give out their voice against the cities of Yehuda. As keepers of a field are they against her round about, because she has been rebellious against me, says Yahweh. Your way and your doings have procured these things unto you.
Your way and your doings have brought these things upon you. Go ahead.
This is your wickedness, because it is bitter, because it reaches onto your heart. My bowels, I am pained at my very heart. My heart makes a noise in me. I cannot hold my peace, because you have heard, O my soul, the sound of the trumpet, the alarm of war. Destruction upon destruction is cried, for the whole land is spoiled. Suddenly are my tents spoiled, and my curtains in a moment. How long shall I see the standard and hear the sound of the trumpet? For my people is foolish. They have not known me. They are sottish children, and they have none understanding. They are wise to do evil, but to do good they have no knowledge.
They are wise to do evil, but to do good, they have no knowledge. We will sit up and put all kind of energy into trying to figure out some way to get over on something or to get by from doing something. Put all kind of time and energy into that. When all of it is done, we could have just gone ahead and done it the right way by the time all of the foolishness is over. And he says, for my people is foolish. They have not known me. They are sottish children. That's stupid. And people listen to me read, they be like, oh, that brother harsh. Maybe you might not have you heard of Yahweh? See, but when you are given that that one-sided part of God is love, then when you start hearing real stuff, it's obviously gonna shake your soul. Because you've heard absolutely nothing but niceties. See, that's that what people like, they want to stay in this rosy red part of the belief of doctrine the same way they do new relationship. You know, new relationship in the beginning, oh, it's so cute. You hang up. No, you hang up. Everybody all nice and everybody all like, man, hey, that's gonna pass. That's that beginning stage. That's that little cute stage where y'all don't burp and fart in front of each other. That's gonna go away. Okay? Then you're gonna be left with the real person. See? But people want that little play thing in this book. No. This real stuff in here. Go ahead, bro.
That was the end of that.
All right, let's go to Genesis chapter 15. And if you've heard all of these fairy tales all your life, when people start telling you real stuff, it's going to shake you up. But that don't need to happen to us, because we going to hear real stuff from now till Yahshua return. We're not going to play that play game. It says that it's going to come time that men's heart is going to fail them for fear. You understand what I mean? That means people they've been given the fairy tale that they going to be raptured up. So they ain't never had to deal with any other stuff in Revelation. They've never had to deal with any of that. They're going to see it. And some of them are going to have a heart attack on contact and die. Just gone. Because they didn't think they were going to have to deal with it. So they never got their heart or mind ready to deal with any of those things. And as soon as it comes, they're ready to off themselves. And this is what happens. And this is what living in pleasure does for you. It sets you up for a greater fall. All the mega rich people, when the depression came, they was jumping out of 20-story windows. They was jumping off buildings, killing themselves. The living in luxury set them up for when hardship came, they wasn't equipped to deal with it. All the people who had already been going through hardship, it was like another day for them. They weren't killing themselves. So some of the things that we're arguing about are the very things that's getting us ready for the real hell that we're about to go through. While we're trying to get all of the things of luxury, those are going to be the people that are going to have the hardest time when all of these things go down. Genesis chapter 15, and let's read verses 1 through 4.
After these things, the word of Yahweh came unto Abram in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abram, I am your shield, and your exceeding great reward. And Abram said, Adonai Elohim, what will you give me, seeing I go childless, and the steward of my house is this Eliezer of Damascus? And Abram said, Behold, to me you have given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is mine heir. And behold, the word of Yahweh came unto him, saying, This shall not be your heir, but he shall come forth out of your own bowels, shall be your heir.
So You're going to have a natural son. Don't worry about this other stuff. You're going to have a son that shall proceed out of your own bowels. Now, that's fine and dandy when you having that conversation and you 25. But when you an old man, and we know that a men can produce children up into their old days. But he married to a woman who hasn't had any kids, and still, this is not looking possible. But we know that this is a desire of his, so we know that it is one of the things that he has prayed about. See, so when you pray for something, you have to have the patience to wait on Yahweh to deliver that particular thing. Let's go to chapter 16 and start that at verse 1.
Now Sarai, Abram's wife, bare him no children, and she had an handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said unto Abram, Behold now, Yahweh has restrained me from bearing. I pray you, go in unto my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarai.
Now, some people look at that and say, man, she gave him the handmaid to wife, and he just openly took that woman without even, anything. So he wanted to marry this other woman. Do you understand something? He was told he was going to have a seed, a natural seed, but his wife can't have children. And she old. Fleshly wise, they have now begun to limit what Yahweh can do. And this is what people do all the time. We believe that Yahweh can form a man out of the dust of the ground. But yet when it comes to certain things, we don't see how Yahweh can physically do that. But do understand, this is how Yahweh still plays on what he knows that we know and what we don't know. He knew they were going to do this, though. He needed them to do it, but he wasn't going to lead them to do it. All he did was wait it, because he knows the flesh. He knows the flesh. So them not seeing how this child was going to be brought forth, they went about their own way to bring forth this child. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife.
After 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife. So some time is passing, and they don't see how this is going to be possible, that he's going to have this natural seed from his own bowels, unless we find us, somebody else who going to be a surrogate mother for us. Go ahead.
And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived, and when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarai said unto Abram, My wrong be upon you.
Now, you have to wonder then, why does she turn around and blame him after she gave him the wife? Obviously, he told her what was said to him. Yahweh said, I'm going to have a child from my own bowels. Now, here go that old lady like, from whose bowels? From your bowels. Now, how we going to do it? Now, she got all this going on in one side of her head, while he got something going on in the other side of his head. So, soon as the problem happened, she threw it back to him. My wrong be upon you. What are you talking about? Go ahead.
I have given my maid into my
your bosom.
I have given my maid into your bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. Yahweh judge between me and you.
Oh, she is ticked. Yahweh judge between me and you. Go ahead.
But Abram said unto Sarai, Behold, your maid is in your hand. Do to her as it please you. And when Sarai dealt hardly with her, she fled from her face.
Okay, let's jump to chapter 17 and verse 1.
Verse 1. When Abram was 90 years old and 9, Yahweh appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am El Shaddai. Walk before me, and be you perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll make my covenant between me and you, and will multiply you exceedingly. And Abram fell on his face, and Elohim talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with you, and you shall be a father of many nations.
You shall be a father of many nations. This is easy to talk to a 25-year-old and tell them that. It says, and when Abram was 90 years old and 9, this is being told unto him that he's going to be a father of many nations. Go ahead.
Neither shall your name any more be called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham. For a father of many nations have I made you.
Okay, so now his new name fits the direction that Yahweh is going to give to him. Go ahead.
And I'll make you exceeding fruitful, and I'll make nations of you, and kings shall come out of you. And I'll establish my covenant between me and you and your seed after you in their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be an Elohim unto you and to your seed after you.
Now, obviously, the only way, naturally to be able to do this is this man is going, in all of their thought process, he's got to have these younger women for him to be able to accomplish this. This is all not only his thought process, but her thought process as well. Go ahead.
And I'll give unto you and to your seed after you the land wherein you are a stranger, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I'll be their Elohim. And Elohim said unto Abraham, You shall keep my covenant, therefore, you and your seed after you in their generations. This is my covenant, which you shall keep between me and you and your seed after you. Every man child among you shall be circumcised, and you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant between me and you.
So the circumcision is a token of the covenant between Yahweh and him. Go ahead.
And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man child in your generations, he that is born in the house or bought with money of any stranger, which is not of your seed. He that is born in your house, and he that is bought with your money, must needs be circumcised. And my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And the uncircumcised man-child whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. And Elohim said unto Abraham, As for Sarai your wife, you shall not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall her name be. And I will bless her, and give you a son also of her. Yes, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her. Then Abraham fell upon his face and laughed.
Now, he's laughing, because understand that he was told all of these things before, but the things that was told was concerning him. It was saying that he was going to have this son to come from out of his bowels. Now, in verse 16, do understand that this is a considerable amount of time afterward. Now he says, and I will bless her and give you a son also of her. Yes, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her. Go ahead.
Then Abraham fell upon his face and laughed, and said in his heart, Shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarai, that is 90 years old, bear? And Abraham said unto Elohim, Oh, that Ishmael might live before you.
Right. So this is Ishmael, the son of Hagar. So he's now pushing this son that he already has, oh, that he might live before you. Because he's going off of what he knows naturally. Go ahead.
And Elohim said, Sarai your wife shall bear you a son indeed, and you shall call his name Esaac, and I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I'll make him a great nation.
Right. So when you look at this, that this is definitely a thing about that's going to lead into the explanation of the covenants. But when you deal with what's happening here, Ishmael has different parents than Esau. Ishmael daddy was Abram. Esau daddy is Abraham. Ishmael mama was Hagar. Esau mama is Sarah. And even though she had the baby for Sarai, that was still a different woman. See, they didn't get these new names and directions, then they get the direction for this child. But moving in the flesh, they have already had a boy named Ishmael. Yeah, but that was the son of the flesh. That was somebody else. I hadn't given you who you were to be yet. Go ahead.
Verse 21. But my covenant will I establish with Esaac, which Sarah shall bear unto you at this set time in the next year. And he left off talking with him, and Elohim went up from Abraham. And Abraham took Ishmael his son, and all that were born in his house, and all that were bought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin in the selfsame day, as Elohim had said unto him. And Abraham was 90 years old and 9, when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And Ishmael his son was 13 years old, when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. In the selfsame day was Abraham circumcised, and Ishmael his son. And all the men of his house, born in the house, and bought with money of the stranger, were circumcised with him.
Now, so when you deal with this, if Ishmael was 13 years old, he said that this time next year, Ishmael is between 13 and 14 years old. So this is how long it took for Yahweh to fulfill this thing that he had promised. Now, that doesn't go to say how long they had been asking. So, because people don't wait until they get old to start asking for kids if they haven't had any. So they might have been asking for this for decades. But then here come Yahweh and say, yeah, I'm going to do this through your bowels. Then it's 14 years later before he does it. So you have to, when it says the spirit worketh patience, 14 years is pretty patient. But imagine if you go and do something with what you can do with your own flesh, thinking that you are fulfilling what Yahweh wants. But do understand now, Yahweh knows the flesh of man, because there has to be a allegory of these two covenants. So Yahweh knows what man's going to do in the flesh with this pause. Do you understand? It ain't take us 40 days to act the fool when Moses was gone, right? We done seen the man walk through the water. We done seen the man command what they call natural disasters. We done seen the man command turn water into blood. We done seen the man just make frogs come out of nowhere, lice come out of nowhere, locusts come out of nowhere. We done seen the man do stuff to make not just everybody die, the firstborn out of each house die. You know how hard that is? I mean, we talking pinpoint death in the house. No, just kill that one. Okay, now go to this house. Nope, just kill that one. I mean, and he's going all the way through. 40 days is all it took for us to say, we don't know what happened to him. Let's build us a God. That's all it took. So, don't look down upon this man because this happened. Because you understand, he's going through stuff that he don't have a book. He is the book. We're reading it. He had to live it. Go ahead.
I was also going to say, within the 12-year period, they probably already got comfortable with thought that Ishmael is the one.
Of course they got comfortable. Man, we get comfortable in 20 days. You talking about 12 years. Boy, stop. Did you finish that?
Yes.
Let's go to Galatians chapter 4. Yeah, you know they've gotten comfortable. And he says, oh, that Ishmael might live before you. Yeah, I heard you. Yeah, I heard you concerning him. Even though Samuel the prophet knew how foolish Saul was, he got accustomed to Saul, and he started talking to Yahweh about Saul. He said, man, how many more times you gonna keep coming to me about Saul? The man wicked. Stop talking to me about him. And because you get used to something don't mean nothing to Yahweh. But see, we're creatures of habit. And once we get accustomed to something, we don't want it to change. We want it to stay just like that. Here's the thing. We're supposed to be growing and changing. If you've been sitting in that seat for a couple of years and you still the same person you was when you walked in the door, there's something wrong. Galatians chapter 4, and let's read verses 1 through 5.
Now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, differeth nothing from a servant, though he be master of all, but is under tutors and governors until the time appointed of the Father. Even so we, when we were children, were in bondage under the elements of the world. But when the fullness of the time was come, Elohim sent forth his Son, made of a woman, made under the law, to redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive adoption of sons.
Right. If he came to redeem them that are under the law, then he came to redeem the children of Israel. According to what is written, the Euro-Gentiles were not given the law. So he didn't come to redeem them. But see, that's what people want to tell you. Well, Christ came to do the whole world. No. He came to deal with Israel. See, the 12 disciples were dealing with the children of Israel. He didn't call Saul until after he was done dealing with them, and then sent him to the Euro-Gentiles. The Euro-Gentiles got sent afterward. They had somebody sent to them after it. Even the Mashiach said, the children must eat first. See, the lady said, well, don't the dogs eat from the crumbs that fall off the master's table? Israel got to eat first. But everybody want to establish their place and establish what they have before you. But Yahweh is not going to let it be so. Did you finish that?
Yes.
All right. Hold your place right there and go over to chapter 5. And then read verses 1 through 6.
Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith the Mashiach has made us free, and be not entangled with the yoke of bondage. Behold, I, Saul, say unto you, that if you be circumcised, the Mashiach shall profit you nothing. For I testify again to every man that is circumcised, that he is a debtor to do the whole law.
So you understand what he's dealing with when he's dealing with Galatia. Then we're dealing with these people who are in Europe. You have the children of Israel who are mixed among these people. So they are getting these conflicting doctrines. They then have Saul, who was appointed to teach them. But then you have the other people of Israel who are scattered about, and they're teaching them that they need to be circumcised, that they need to keep the holy days, that they need to do all of these things. And these things were not given unto them. And we can see several times where Saul left them and said, I must go back to Jerusalem to keep the Feast of Pentecost. He didn't tell them, y'all, hey, we must go back. He didn't tell them, look, y'all need to pack y'all stuff now. We need to go keep Pentecost. No, he said, see, y'all Gentiles, I'm teaching y'all, but I am a Jew. I got to go back to Jerusalem and keep the Feast of Pentecost. I see y'all later. He didn't tell them they had to do that. Go ahead.
Verse 4. The anointed one is become of no effect unto you, whosoever of you are justified by the law. You are fallen from grace.
If you are justified by the law, then you need animal sacrifice. You are then trying to return to the old ordinance of the law to justify yourself. See, that's something altogether different. We walk in the spirit of the law, not in the letter of the law. We don't use animal sacrifice to justify us. We've had a perfect sacrifice in the Mashiach, and there's absolutely nothing else that could be offered up better than that. Go ahead.
For we through the Spirit wait for the hope of righteousness by faith. For in the Adonai Yahshua neither circumcision avails anything, nor uncircumcision, but faith which works by love.
All right, let's go to James chapter 2. James chapter 2. And let's read verses 8 through 14.
Jacob chapter 2 and verse 8. If you fulfill the royal law according to the scripture, you shall love your neighbor as yourself, you do well. But if you have respect to persons, you commit sin, and are convinced of the law as transgressors. For whosoever shall keep the whole law, and yet offend in one point, he is guilty of all. For he that said, do not commit adultery, said also, do not kill. Now if you commit no adultery, yet if you kill, you are become a transgressor of the law.
Right. And the same one who says, I do not kill, also said, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. But we have listened to these people again say the word of Yahweh and say every day is holy. That's blasphemy. It says the day that he rested, he sanctified and set apart and marked it as a holy day. So how every day become the day that he rested? If he rested every day, he ain't do nothing. But see, when you listen to these gainsayers, they have all of this stuff to say. Oh, every day is holy, and they getting all that, and the people love to hear it so. But when you read what's really in here, you find that this word does not agree with the things that people are teaching. Go ahead.
So speak you, and so do, as they that shall be judged by the law of liberty. For he shall have judgment without mercy, that has showed no mercy, and mercy rejoiced against judgment. What does it profit, my brethren, though a man say he has faith, and have not works? Can faith save him?
Can faith save him? And this is one of the things that people push, and we end up dealing with one thing, but leaving the other thing undone. Let's go back to Galatians chapter 4. So when we read these things that he who is circumcised is a debtor to do the whole law. Now, what's interesting is people turn around and teach that the law is nailed to the cross, yet they've turned around and gotten circumcised and have made themselves a debtor to do the whole law, while standing behind an altar telling everybody that the law is done away with. You can't get no more hypocritical than that. Then telling you that you must be in bondage because you're dealing with the things of the Old Testament. And it was one of the things that we ended up going through in Bible study, that although you have a lot of people who deal with things out of this New Testament, you find that how they deal with marriage is completely according to the Old Testament. Marriage, divorce. Marriage, divorce. Over and over and over again. The Old Testament is what gave them the ability to continuously get married and divorce, get married and divorce, get married and divorce. You get into what the Mashiach says, and it's something completely opposite. So if they're just dealing with the New Testament, how is it that they still deal with marriage according to the Old Testament? See, that's hypocrisy when you jump in and out as it suits you. So the Messiah says one, and it would be one thing if the Messiah didn't say anything about marriage. So maybe you could justify that jumping back. But he completely says something altogether different. He says Moshe gave you divorce because of the hardness of your heart, but from the beginning it was never so. So how is it that New Testament people jump back to the Old Testament when it's talking about money? They make sure that they go back to talk about the tithe, and they go they don't read out of the Old Testament when they're talking about divorce, but they definitely deal with it according to the Old Testament while professing nothing but the new. There's something wrong with that. Go ahead, bro.
Galatians chapter 4 and verse 6. And because you are sons, Elohim hath sent forth the Spirit of his Son into your hearts, crying, Abba, Father. Wherefore you are no more a servant, but a son. And if a son, then an heir of Elohim through the Mashiach. Howbeit then, when you knew not Elohim, you did service unto them which by nature are no gods. But now, after that you have known Elohim, or rather are known of Elohim, how turn you again to the weak and beggarly elements, whereunto you desire again to be in bondage? You observe days and months and times and years.
Now, understand who he's dealing with. He's dealing with the Euro Gentiles. People will try to make you believe that, oh, this is talking about, y'all that want to keep the holy days. Euro Gentiles weren't keeping the holy day. The things that they're fighting about is they're having to deal with other Israelites coming in telling them certain things, and when you deal with the days, the months, and the years that they observe, consider when they do New Year, they're worshiping the two-headed god Janus. One of the illustrations that we showed earlier, it was the God that can look into the past and the future. That's why the church does that mock ritual where it's the only day that you go to church on midnight. It's midnight that you're there and you doing the same thing that the people at the club doing. They all count down to the ball drop. But in the church, they told you to turn around and look at the wall. They count down to New Year and then had you turn around back to the front. They did a mock ritual of the two-headed god Janus. And we didn't learn that by some thugs down the street. We learned that in the church. See, there's certain evil that we can say, yeah, Pookie taught me that. Yeah. There's other evil. Yeah, man down the street taught me that. Nah, Pastor taught you that right there. That's some evil that he taught you. When we went to keep them Easter celebrations, where we celebrating the God of fertility, dressing up our kids in Easter suits, portraying sperm that go and fertilize the egg. You learn that from the pastor. Didn't no thug out of the street teach you that. Go ahead.
Galatians chapter 4 and verse 11. I am afraid of you, lest I have bestowed upon you labor in vain. Brethren, I beseech you, be as I am, for I am as you are. You have not injured me at all. You know how through infirmity of the flesh I preached the gospel unto you at the first. And my temptation which was in my flesh you despised not, nor rejected, but received me as an angel of Elohim, even as the Mashiach Yahshua. Where is it then the blessedness you spake of? For I bear you record, that if it had been possible, you would have plucked out your own eyes and have given them to me. I am therefore become your enemy, because I tell you the truth. Am I therefore become your enemy, because I tell you the truth? They zealously affect you, but not well. Yes, they would exclude you, that you might affect them.
They zealously affect you, but not well. So when they are listening to the children of Israel who have been spread among them, they're now getting this mixed doctrine. So they affect them, but not well. And that's the danger of listening to everybody. And I tell people, you know, you have we have a lot of people, and a lot of times brothers send me a lot of things that they encounter on the internet. I tell people that, hey, sometimes you got to be careful about how much of some of that stuff you deal with. There's certain movies that I got ready to look at, and I said, nah, I can't look at this right here, because you know there's some deep dog evil type stuff. That stuff mess with your mind. The movie gone, and you still like, you know, I think I want to sacrifice a rabbit or something. Hey man, see, now your brain messed up. See, you've been watching that evil for so long, and you consider like the people who, the guy who did the Batman and then ended up killing himself. You look at, you know, some of these dark movies, and these people portrayed these characters, and they wasn't able to come back from it. Denzel said he wasn't able to come back right away from Training Day. So he up there talking to his kids like he Alonzo. And that dude was crazy in the movie. He over there talking to his kids like, you know, they Mexican. Mijo. You do know that's the little black boy, right? And he don't know what mijo is. He said he had to go somewhere and get his head right, because he had to play this sick, demented person. You keep entertaining that, and if your mind is not able to shut those things on and off, and everybody think they're ready for everything, then when you think that's over, that thing's still dealing with you. Go ahead.
Verse 18. But it is good to be zealously affected always in a good thing, and not only when I am present with you. My little children, of whom I travail in birth again until the Mashiach be formed in you, I desire to be present with you now, and to change my voice, for I stand in doubt of you. Tell me, you that desire to be under the law, do you not hear the law?
Do you not hear the law? Go ahead.
For it is written that Abraham had 2 sons, the one by a bondmaid, the other by a free woman. But he who was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh, but he of the free woman was by promise.
Right. So now these things represent an allegory of the covenants. So Yahweh gave him a promise, and then sit back and wait for him to activate it on his own flesh. He just sat back and waited. He didn't have to tell him to do nothing. All he had to do was pause, and the flesh is going to lead him right into doing this on his own. Then after that, oh yeah, by the way, here go the promise over here. Yeah, but I thought he was, yeah. Here go the promise right here. So here it is at the end of the day. Yahweh knew what he was going to do. Because see, that's what the flesh does. It's the spirit that worketh patience. Do understand? We got a book. We got all of these things. So Yahweh expects more of us than he expected of these people. We know way more than they knew. You act like he could just go back and read a book. You see here, you see verse 18, Yahweh said, no, he is verse 18. Go ahead.
Which things are an allegory. For these are the 2 covenants, the one from the Mount Sinai, which gendereth to bondage, which is Agar. For this Agar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, and answereth to Jerusalem, which now is, and is in bondage with her children. But Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all.
All right, let's go to Hebrews chapter 8. Hebrews chapter 8, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
Now of the things which we have spoken, this is the sum. We have such an high priest, who is set on the right hand of the throne of majesty in the heavens, a minister of the sanctuary and of the true tabernacle, which the Adonai pitched, and not man. For every high priest is ordained to offer gifts and sacrifices, wherefore it is of necessity that this man have somewhat also to offer. For if he were on earth, he should not be a priest, seeing that there are priests that offer gifts according to the law, who serve unto the example and shadow of heavenly things, as Moshe was admonished of Elohim when he was about to make the tabernacle. For, see, saith he, that you make all things according to the pattern showed to you in the mount.
Now, it says we have a mentioning of the Jerusalem which is above, which is free. Then he says, when Moshe was about to make the tabernacle, see that you make all things according to the pattern showed you in the mount. So then we have to ask ourselves, where did they get the building plan for the Christian church? Because every last one of them have these 3 pyramids in the front with a phallic symbol, which is they call a steeple. Where did they get that building plan? See, right here it says, make sure you do and build it according to the pattern that was shown you. So where was that pattern given to them? Because every last one of them have the same basic setup. Some are bigger than others. Some are more extravagant than others. But the basic building plan is the same. Where did they get it? Because it didn't come out of this book. Go ahead.
Verse 6. But now hath he obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much also he is the mediator of a better covenant, which was established upon better promises. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. For finding fault with them, he says, behold, the days come, saith the Adonai, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Yehuda.
Now, the covenant is with the house of Israel and with the house of Yehuda. What people want to do is knock Israel out the way and say that the covenant, the new covenant, is with the Christians. Once again, they were grafted into the tree, but now they want to knock everybody else out the tree. Go ahead.
Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, saith the Adonai. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Adonai. I will put my laws into their mind.
I will put my laws into their mind.
And write them in their hearts. And I will be to them a Elohim, and they shall be to me a people.
Right. So all the people that are walking around talking about they're in this new covenant, they don't really know what the new covenant says. I will put my laws into their mind and write them into their hearts. So when you look at the easy way to remember where this is you got Hebrews 8 and 8 through 10, but then you find the very same things in Jeremiah 31 and 31. So you got the very same things in the Old Testament as it is in the New Testament, and you can read it word for word. It's going to say the same thing. Now here it is in the New Testament. It's still saying will, which is future tense. Go ahead.
And they shall not teach every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know the Adonai, for all shall know me, from the least to the greatest. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness, and their sins and their iniquities will I remember no more. In that he says, a new covenant he has made the first old. Now that which decays and wax old is ready to vanish away.
All right, let's go to Romans chapter 2. See, we have to consider when we look at some of these things that he says that those who have not known his word shall be punished with few stripes. Those who have known his word and have done contrary, they shall be punished with many stripes. So a lot of times people think that they're going to be covered by the veil of ignorance. So they just try not to hear certain things, but that doesn't go based on what you have denied to learn. If you have had the opportunity to learn, then you are held accordingly. You are judged accordingly. So you have to understand the generation before us, we have generations before us of people who couldn't even read. think my grandmother went as high as 4th grade in school. My mother had to teach her how to write a check. Don't think that them people are going to be judged on the same standard as us. You got computers. What's worse, you got pocket computers. You walk around with a computer in your hand 24 hours a day. Some people can't detach from their computer. You won't be protected under no veil of ignorance. And neither will those people who you talking to who say, well, you know, I just such and such. Yeah. They have the opportunity to research the same things that you research. Romans chapter 2, and let's start that at verse 12.
For as many as have sinned without law shall also perish without law. And as many as have sinned in the law shall be judged by the law.
Right. So you got death, and then you got judgment. And it's the New Testament. Go ahead.
For not the hearers of the law are just before Elohim, but the doers of the law shall be justified. For when the Gentiles, which have not the law,
the Gentiles which have not the law, which goes according to the other things that we have read, the Gentiles have not the law. They were not given the law. So when you then read the things in Galatians, you have to understand that this is the Apostle Saul going to all these different places in Europe and Asia Minor, giving them the word. So when they try to go to the law, he's like, why are you trying to go to the law? First of all, you don't even understand it. Why are you trying to deal with something that you don't understand? It wasn't given unto you as a Euro Gentile. You don't understand the law like the children of Israel do, because the children of Israel are instructed out of the law. Why are you trying to deal with that? Go ahead.
Do by nature the things contained in the law. These, having not the law, are a law unto themselves, which show the work of the law written in their hearts, their conscience also bearing witness, and their thoughts the meanwhile accusing or else excusing one another. In the day when Elohim shall judge the secrets of men by Yahshua the Mashiach according to my gospel.
So then there's judgment there. In the day when Elohim shall judge the secrets of men by Yahshua the Mashiach according to my gospel. What people think, if they go to heaven zip tang, then they bypass judgment. That's what going to heaven zip tang is all about. That they believe they're going to bypass judgment. Ain't gonna happen. Go ahead.
Behold, you are called a Yehudi, and resteth in the law, and make your boast of Elohim, and knoweth his will, and approveth the things that are more excellent, being instructed out of the law.
So the children of Israel are instructed out of the law. The Gentiles are not. So people who don't understand that they're not a Gentile, because you got black people walking around believing that they're Gentiles. So they don't understand that they're supposed to be instructed out of the law. But they have been poisoned against everything that's in the Old Testament. Go ahead.
And art confident that you yourself are a guide of the blind, a light of them which are in darkness, an instructor of the foolish, a teacher of babes, which has the form of knowledge and of the truth in the law.
So understand, he's then having to deal with the children of Israel who are among these people, the Euro Gentiles, and then he has to deal with them about what it is you teaching these people. You understand that you know more. You understand that you're instructed out of the law. But then what are you going to do while these people watch? You gonna blaspheme Yahweh's name while you teaching the law, but then do something else? Go ahead.
You therefore which teacheth another, teacheth not you yourself? You that preaches a man should not steal, does you steal? You that says a man should not commit adultery, does you commit adultery? You that abhor idols, does you commit sacrilege?
Right. Now, if all of these things were going to be nailed to the cross, why he still reading them? Why is he still giving instruction according to them? Go ahead.
You that maketh your boast of the law, through breaking the law, dishonoreth you Elohim.
Right.
For the name of Elohim is blasphemed among the Gentiles through you, as it is written.
See, now the name of Elohim is now blasphemed because they hear what you say, but then they watch what you do. Go ahead.
For circumcision verily profits if you keep the law.
Circumcision profits if you keep the law. Yet you got a whole bunch of people circumcised and they don't know what it means and don't know what it is they're supposed to be doing. Go ahead.
But if you be a breaker of the law, your circumcision is made uncircumcision. Therefore, if the circumcision keep the righteousness of the law, shall not his Therefore, if the uncircumcision keep the righteousness of the law, shall not his uncircumcision be counted for circumcision?
Shall not his uncircumcision be counted for circumcision if he keep the righteousness of the law, not the letter of the law? And because people don't understand the difference between those, anytime you start dealing with the righteousness of the law, the adversary, the devil, has instructed them to tell you that, oh, you must be back in bondage. You want to be in bondage. Because they don't understand what the righteousness of the law means. Go ahead.
Verse 27. And shall not uncircumcision, which is by nature, if it fulfill the law, judge you, who by the letter and circumcision does transgress the law? For he is not a Yehudi, which is one outwardly, neither is that circumcision, which is outward in the flesh. But he is a Yehudi, which is one inwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart, in the spirit and not in the letter, whose praise is not of men, but of Elohim.
Right. And when you have a circumcised heart, there are some things that you will no longer do. When there's a circumcision of the heart, there are things that you begin to start pulling out of your life. The whole part of the circumcision is getting rid of that foreskin. Yahweh said you got foreskin on your heart that need to be gotten rid of. And that foreskin over your heart is those things that we have gotten accustomed to being raised up in the daughter of Babylon. Let's go to Luke chapter 10. Luke chapter 10 and verses 25 through 37.
Verse 25. And behold, a certain lawyer stood up and tempted him, saying, Master, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? He said unto him, What is written in the law? How readeth you?
Now consider this. We have to consider the things that the Mashiach has said. The man didn't ask about going to heaven. He asked about eternal life. The answer is, what is written in the law? How you read it? So you ask the majority of people who go to church, what's written in the law? How you read it? We don't read it at all. It's nailed to the cross. Y'all got some problem. You got some serious problem. That this red writing, this Yahshua talking. See? And when you go to the parable, the whole thing about Lazarus, and the one was saying, let me go unto my brethren and warn them. He said, man, if they will not hear Moshe, if they will not hear Moses, if they will not hear what's written in the Old Testament, they will not be persuaded though one rose from the dead. So here it is. They claim they love him. They claim they do all of those things. The Messiah said, if they don't hear Moses, they are not going to be persuaded that one rose from the dead. Keep on going about your business. Go ahead.
Verse 27. And he answering said, You shall love the Adonai your Elohim with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself.
And your neighbor as yourself. What people don't understand is they read these things not dealing with the fact that it's going to take the understanding of the things of Moshe, the understanding of all of those things to be able to do this. This is a broad overview of the righteousness of the law. Go ahead.
And he said unto him, You have answered right. This do, and you shall live. But he, willing to justify himself, said unto Yahshua, And who is my neighbor?
Now, this next question then leads to a whole nother thing. Go ahead.
And Yahshua answering said, A certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and fell among thieves, which stripped him of his raiment, and wounded him, and departed, leaving him half dead. And by chance there came down a certain priest that way, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. And likewise a Levite, when he was at the place, came and looked on him, and passed by on the other side.
So now you got a Levite, and a priest, and they pass by on the other side. You have to consider dealing with the letter of that law, why they would do that. If this man is wounded and beaten, he's bloody. Now they're using the letter of the law. Look at, man, I don't want to be unclean, so I ain't gonna help this brother here. So now we're getting down to what a neighbor really is. Because see, you got those that believe that they can be nice to only people who are just like them. See, that's why a lot of people want to push you to wear fringes, because they want to be able to tell who is actually an Israelite from far off. Well, so you only gonna treat people nice who are just like you? You gonna run into some problems there. Go ahead.
But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion on him, and went to him, and bound up his wounds, pouring in oil and wine, and set him on his own beast, and brought him to an inn, and took care of him. And on the morrow when he departed, he took out 2 pence, and gave them to the host, and said unto him, Take care of him, and whatsoever you spend more, when I come again, I will repay you. Which now of these 3 think you was neighbor unto him that fell among the thieves? And he said, He that showed mercy on him. Then said Yahshua unto him, Go and do you likewise.
He that showed mercy unto him was his neighbor. Do understand, out of this parable, the worst of the 3 was the Samaritan. Do understand what they said? The Samaritans have no dealings with the children of Israel. They didn't like the Samaritans. That's why the one who is least esteemed in this scenario was the best man spiritually. You had a priest, highly esteemed; Levite, highly esteemed; Samaritan. Remember the woman at the well? And she talked, and she said, how you being a Yehudi deal with a person of Samaria? For we know that the Samaritans, the Yehudis, have no dealings with the Samaritans. Now, here it is. So the Samaritan don't have any dealings with them because they're a split house. Yet it was him that went and did all of these things for the wounded man. So stature-wise, as far as their hierarchy in society, the Samaritan was the lowest. Yet spiritually, he was the greatest, even above the priest and the Levite. These are the ones who are supposed to administer Yahweh's word. Let's go to Hebrews chapter 13. See, that's, and when people don't understand how to deal with the law versus the righteousness of the law, they take those things out of context. Hebrews 13, and let's read verses 1 through 3. This is why people want to push you to wear fringes, so they can glory in the outward appearance of you, so they can know how to deal with you. Why you need to know how to deal with me? So you wasn't going to treat me nice until you found out I was a Hebrew? Go ahead.
Let brotherly love continue. Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares.
Right. So Yahweh has put angels in your path, and some of you have entertained angels unawares. He need to have fringes on? What happened? What happened? What happened? He don't look like you thought he was gonna look. See? Did you cuss him out on the street? Go ahead.
Remember them that earn bonds as bound with them, and them which suffer adversity as being yourselves also in the body.
And them which suffer adversity as being yourselves in the body. Now let's go to 1 Kings chapter 13.
First Kings chapter 13 and verse 1. And behold, there came a man of Elohim out of Yehuda by the word of Yahweh unto Bethel. And Jeroboam stood by the altar to burn incense. And he cried against the altar in the word of Yahweh, and said, O altar, altar, thus said Yahweh, behold, a child shall be born unto the house of David, Josiah by name. And upon you shall he offer the priest of the high places that burn incense upon you, and men's bones shall be burnt upon you. And he gave a sign the same day, saying, This is the sign which Yahweh had spoken. Behold, the altar shall be rent, and the ashes that are upon it shall be poured out. And it came to pass, when King Jeroboam heard the saying of the man of Elohim, which had cried against the altar in Bethel, that he put forth his hand from the altar, saying, Lay hold on him. And his hand, which he put forth against him, dried up, so that he could not pull it in again to him. The altar also was rent, and the ashes poured out from the altar, according to the sign which the man of Elohim had given by the word of Yahweh. And the king answered and said unto the man of Elohim, Entreat now the face of Yahweh your Elohim, and pray for me, that my hand may be restored me again. And the man of Elohim besought Yahweh, and the king's hand was restored him again, and became as it was before.
Mm-hmm.
And the king said unto the man of Elohim, Come home with me, and refresh yourself. I will give you a reward. And the man of Elohim said unto the king, If you will give me half your house, I will not go in with you, neither will I eat bread nor drink water in this place. For so it was charged me by the word of Yahweh, saying, Eat no bread, nor drink water, nor turn again by the same way that you came it. So he went another way, and returned not by the way that he came to Bethel. Now there dwelt an old prophet in Bethel, and his sons came and told him all the works that the man of Elohim had done that day in Bethel. The words which he had spoken unto the king, them they told also to their father. And their father said unto them, What way went he? For his sons had seen what way the man of Yahweh went which came from Yehuda. And he said unto his sons, Saddle me the ass. So they saddled him the ass, and he rode thereon. And went after the man of Elohim, and found him sitting under an oak. And he said unto him, Are you the man of Elohim that came from Yehuda? And he said, I am. Then he said unto him, Come home with me, and eat bread.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I may not return with you, nor go in with you. Neither will I eat bread nor drink water with you in this place.
Right, because that's what the instructions was that he was given. Go ahead.
For it was said to me by the word of Yahweh, You shall eat no bread nor drink water there, nor turn again to go by the way that you cameth. He said unto him, I am a prophet also as you are. And an angel spake unto me by the word of Yahweh, saying, Bring him back with you into your house, that he may eat bread and drink water. But he lied unto him.
Now, the old prophet comes, tells him a lie, and now, read verse 19.
So he went back with him.
And went completely against what Yahweh has told him. Now, he's able to say all of these things when he's asked, but now somebody claimed to be a prophet. How many times we done turned on the TV, flipped through the channels, and heard the master prophet? We done heard this prophet. We done heard that. See, we like pomp and circumstance. When people proclaim to be something, we then allow them to tell us vainglorious lies. People claim they the comforter. They can tell us anything. All they got to do is come up with a nice line title, and all of a sudden, we listening to the stuff that they talking about. So we talking about a lying prophet here. All he got to say is, I'm a prophet too, and Yahweh said such and such. We came from that, listening to people say that stuff almost every week. God told me this. God told me that. He didn't tell you to keep the Sabbath. He didn't tell you to take that Christmas tree down I'm by that altar over there. He didn't tell you that woman ain't supposed to be behind that altar. He didn't tell you that. But he told you some personal prophecy that I need to pay you $1,000 for. How convenient. Go ahead.
You know, even in this situation, we all know when it comes to Yahweh, do as you're told. But sometimes you can talk too much.
Yeah.
Because had he not told all the other stuff,
right,
then the sons wouldn't have ammunition to give to the father.
Now he know how to come at you because of the information that you gave him. You know, come back to my house. No. I tell people, even especially when dealing with kids, no is a complete sentence. Everything you say after that lessens the effect of your no. See, if you ain't got children, this don't make no sense to you. What I'm saying is complete rubbish. You don't understand. When you say to a kid, no, I got a such and such, guess what? They on their way back. Well, what about if we do this right here? And then that way when you do this, now you get, look now, no, we ain't doing that now. See, no is a complete sentence. It is a subject, it is a predicate, it is an action verb, okay? It does everything in the sentence, okay? So you got to know when you dealing with children, no. That's it.
Some adults too.
See? Yeah, said some adults too. Yeah. Yeah, you got a point there, brother. You got a point. Go ahead.
And did eat bread in his house and drank water. And it came to pass, as they sat at the table, that the word of Yahweh came unto the prophet that brought him back. And he cried unto the man of Elohim that came from Yehudah, saying, Thus saith Yahweh, for as much as you have disobeyed the mouth of Yahweh, and have not kept the commandment which Yahweh your Elohim commanded you.
Now the very one that lied to him is the one that ended up placing the judgment upon him. Remember now, Yahweh said, I ain't going to completely take all these nations away from you. I'm going to leave some of them amongst you to try you, to prove you, to see whether or not you will serve me or not. See, some of them thorny family members you got, Yahweh put them there. He want to make sure, no, keep pushing them, see if they going to walk away from you. So it's going to make them tough. They either going to be tough or they going to walk away from the word. One or the other. But at the end of the day, I'm going to know what I'm working with. Go ahead.
But came back and have eaten bread and drank water in this place, of which Yahweh did say to you, Eat no bread and drink no water, your carcass shall not come onto the sepulchre of your fathers.
So he pretended that Yahweh had spoke to him, but Yahweh spoke to him for real after the other prophet was disobedient. Go ahead.
And it came to pass, after that he had eaten bread, and after he had drunk, that he saddled for him the ass, to wit, for the prophet whom he had brought back. And when he was gone, a lion met him by the way, and slew him, and his carcass was cast in the way, and the ass stood by it. The lion also stood by the carcass. And behold, men passed by, and saw the carcass cast in the way, and the lion standing by the carcass. And they came and told it in the city where the old prophet dwelt. And when the prophet that brought him back from the way heard thereof, he said, It is the man of Elohim who was disobedient unto the word of Yahweh. Therefore Yahweh has delivered him unto the lion, which has torn him and slain him, according to the word of Yahweh, which he spake unto him.
Right. The more of an understanding that you have, the heavier the judgment is upon you. Being directed by Yahweh, then you have to understand, wait a minute, Every other direction I done got came forth in a dream or a vision. How he tell you but didn't tell me? He should automatically know, wait a minute, if I got direction to come here and I got the direction in certain ways, how didn't I get this next one in that same fashion? Go ahead.
Verse 27. And he spake to his sons, saying, Saddle me the ass. And they saddled him. And he went and found his carcass cast in the way, and the ass and the lion standing by the carcass. The lion had not eaten the carcass, nor torn the ass. And the prophet took up the carcass of the man of Elohim, and laid it upon the ass, and brought it back. And the old prophet came to the city to mourn and to bury him. And he laid his carcass in his own grave, and they mourned over him, saying, Alas, my brother. And it came to pass, after he had buried him, that he spake to his son, saying, When I am dead, then bury me in the sepulchre wherein the man of Elohim is buried. Lay my bones beside his bones. For the saying which he cried by the word of Yahweh against the altar in Bethel, and against all the houses of the high places which are in the cities of Samaria, shall surely come to pass.
They shall surely come to pass. Go ahead.
After this thing, Jeroboam returned not from his evil way, but made again of the lowest of the people priests of the high places.
See, it shows that people will not truly repent. After these things, after you involved and your hands shrink up, how you still turn around? See, some people, no matter what happened, they gonna still return back to their evil way. Go ahead.
Whosoever would, he consecrated him, and he became one of the priests of the high places.
Right. He grabbed anybody and made them priests. And we want to know how we get all of these evil teachings off in the word, where all these twisted things come from. We're talking about the lowest of priests bouncing around, having some understanding, but then doing some other foul things. Go ahead.
And this thing became sin unto the house of Jeroboam, even to cut it off and to destroy it from off the face of the earth.
All right, let's go to Isaiah chapter 30.
Isaiah chapter 30 and verse 1. Woe to the rebellious children, said Yahweh, that take counsel, but not to me.
They take counsel, but not of me. The disobedient prophet accepted the counsel of somebody else who claimed that Yahweh had spoken unto them. When our elder died, we watched all kind of strange things happen. And people took the word of those strange people, even though we knew it went against this word. And you have to ask yourself, what has to be in your heart that you are able to allow a man to tell you something different than from what's in this book? You have to ask yourself, what's in your heart? We knew that we were blind before. We knew that we didn't understand any word and we didn't read any word before we were baptized in Yahshua's name. But how you get baptized in Yahshua's name and still let somebody tell you something other than what's in this book? It is written that my sheep hear my voice, and another shepherd will they not follow. So when they start speaking strange doctrine, how you follow that? So at the end of the day, we have to look at some of those people and say, what was wrong with your heart that you was able to let a man direct you into selling all your property and doing all of these things? What had to be in your heart to even become a part of that? Go ahead.
And that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin, that walk to go down into Egypt, and have not asked at my mouth to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh, and to trust in the shadow of Egypt.
Right. Because we want to put our trust in men that we can see. Go ahead.
Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt your confusion. For his princes were at Zoan, and his ambassadors came to Hanes. They were all ashamed of a people that could not profit them, nor be in help nor profit, but a shame, and also a reproach. The burden of the beast of the south into the land of trouble and anguish, from whence come the young and old lion, the viper and fiery flying serpent. They will carry their riches upon their shoulders of young asses, and their treasures upon the bunches of camels, to a people that shall not profit them. For the Egyptians shall help in vain, and to no purpose. Therefore have I cried concerning this. Their strength is to sit still.
Their strength is to sit still. But we want to run to go get help in other places. And at the end of the day, it's not going to help us at all. Yahweh has already given Israel to these curses. We were given the blessing and the curse at the same time. Blessing if you follow what you're supposed to follow. Curses if you don't. Now we got to live out these curses. And we think we can run away from the curses. We think if we run to Israel, we ain't gonna have to deal with the curses. If we move with the white folk, we ain't gonna have to deal with the curse. The curse gonna follow you wherever you go. You gonna finish this. Otherwise, you gonna go in that land and you ain't gonna be ready. Go ahead.
Now go, write it before them in a table, and note it in a book, that it may be for the time to come forever and ever. That this is a rebellious people, lying children, children that will not hear the law of Yahweh, which say to the seers, see not, and to the prophets, prophesy not unto us right things, speak unto us smooth things, prophesy deceits.
This is how we fell for them $1,000 prophecies that we had to pay for in Sunday morning church. This is how we did it. See? So you have to ask, the same question I asked earlier. What was in your heart that you was able to fall for that? See? Because we wanted deceits prophesied unto us. That's how we fell for that. That's how we showed up. Let those people tell us whatever. And we had to write them $500, $1,000 check so we can come down to the front and get a personal prophecy. That ain't nothing but a witch and a soothsayer. When you deal with the prophecies that's going on here, Israel was giving prophecies about Israel as a whole. When you pay that $1,000 on Sunday morning, they were giving you a personal prophecy just about you. Then you have to ask yourself, what is your personal prophecy got anything to do with the redemption of the children of Israel? You just want to hear you going to own a business and you going to do this. Right. You might well have went to a witch. Go ahead.
Esaias chapter 30 and verse 11. Get you out of the way. Turn aside out of the path. Cause the Holy One of Israel to cease from before us. Wherefore thus said the Holy One of Israel, because you despise this word and trust in oppression and perverseness and stay thereon.
Right, but we don't see it as oppression. When the people are getting hit with 6 or 7 offerings, the people got a building fund, they got this, they got that. Meanwhile, they getting government grants to build a building, yet they still getting a building fund. It's oppression and the people don't even know it. They like the oppression. Go ahead.
Therefore this iniquity shall be to you as a breach ready to fall, swelling out in a high wall, whose breaking comes suddenly at an instant. And he shall break it as the breaking of the potter's vessels that is broken in pieces. He shall not spare, so that there shall not be found in the bursting of it a sherd to take fire from the hearth, or to take water withal out of the pit. For thus said the Adonai Yahweh, the Holy One of Israel, in returning and rest you shall be saved, In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength, and you would not. But you said, No, for we will flee upon horses. Therefore shall you flee, and we will ride upon the swift. Therefore shall they that pursue you be swift.
Right. Wherever you go, that judgment gonna follow you. You run fast, judgment gonna run faster. You said, well, you know what? I'm gonna move out of town. Judgment gonna move out of town and sit right next door. Hey, how you doing? I'm your neighbor. I'm Judgment. Nice to meet you. You move out of the country. Judgment coming with you. I got my passport. How you doing? My name's Judgment. Where we going? You gonna live this out. You ain't gonna run from this. Look how long we've been in this country and we still going through the same things that our folks was going through during civil rights era. Go ahead.
1,000 shall flee at the rebuke of one. At the rebuke of 5 shall you flee, till you be left as a beacon upon the top of a mountain and as an ensign on an hill.
Right. When the police pull up, 50 brothers take out running. One man. Whoop! That's how he ain't got to turn the whole siren on. All you got to do is just whoop! 50 dudes. It's like roaches with the light cut on. He didn't even turn the whole siren on. At the rebuke of one. Go ahead.
And therefore will Yahweh wait, that he may be gracious unto you, and therefore will he be exalted, that he may have mercy upon you. For Yahweh is a Elohim of judgment. Blessed are all they that wait for him. For the people shall dwell in Zion at Jerusalem. You shall weep no more. He will be very gracious unto you at the voice of your cry. When he shall hear it, he will answer you. And though the Adonai give you the bread of adversity and the water of affliction, yet shall not your teachers be removed into a corner any more, but your eyes shall see your teachers. And your ears shall hear a word behind you, saying, This is the way, walk you in it, when you turn to the right hand and when you turn to the left. You shall defile also the covering of your graven images of silver, and the ornament of your molten images of gold. You shall cast them away as a minstrel's cloth. You shall say unto it, Get you hence. Then shall he give the rain of your seed, that you shall sow the ground withal, and bread of the increase of the earth, and it shall be fat and plenteous. In that day shall your cattle feed in large pastures. The oxen likewise and the young asses that ear the ground shall eat clean provender, which has been winnowed with the shovel and with the fan.
And we know that this is how things are done organically, but we know that the wickedness that is upon us now, the way that they even grow these animals in these metal pens and the things that they have all kind of wickedness that has to be set right on the earth. I was looking at this video where they was showing this pig farm where it was nothing but metal buildings, and the pigs were all locked up in this in cages where they barely got enough room to turn, but all the feces went down and was like went into this little lake. All the lake, and it wasn't no lake, it was just an area where it was made out of nothing but feces, because they in the cages, and it rolled down and it started collecting and made a lake of feces. They then, to get rid of the feces, they would pump it out and spray it. And they spray, and it's people that live there. The wind take it downhill. All them people got breathing ailments. They have to roll up their windows and close their doors. It stinks so bad that there's just a lake of pig feces and urine, and they spraying that. And who ends up out of everybody suffering the worst? Of course, you know, they put it near a black neighborhood. And this is one of the video was saying that it was one of the biggest producer of pigs in America, the biggest pig farm, and this was one of their facilities where they just, the only way for them to get rid of the feces, because it's just a big lake, so they just suck it up and spray it into there. And the lady said, if it'll feel like it's rain. So you got pig feces rain. This is the wickedness that goes on here. There's so many levels to wickedness that we don't consider. Now, all these people, they got major asthma, breathing issues, and who knows what else they're going to have because of the way that these things are being dealt with. All of this cannot be in a righteous setup. These are things that we cannot allow to happen. Because see, they eating the pigs. The pigs are supposed to clean the land. And they're defiling it because they're trying to keep the pig to eat it. Go ahead.
It says chapter 30 and verse 25. And there shall be upon every high mountain and upon every high hill rivers and streams of waters in the day of the great slaughter, when the towers fall. Moreover, the light of the moon shall be as the light of the sun, and the light of the sun shall be sevenfold, as the light of 7 days, in the day that Yahweh binds up the breach of his people and heals the stroke of their wound.
Right. It's the punishment that man should have. When you talk about the light of the moon shall be as the light of the sun, you have to consider how powerful the moon gets its light from the sun. So now you're talking about the moon being as bright as the sun, and then the sun being 7 times hotter than it was. This is righteous judgment. It is righteous judgment because men have worshiped, taken the Sabbath day, and they worship on Sunday. They worship the sun on the sun's day and worshiped it as the Sabbath, which is the 7th day. So he said, all right, you want to make Sunday the Sabbath? I'm going to make Sunday, I'm going to make this sun 7 times hotter than it normally is. You want to make the sun a Sabbath? I'll give you a Sabbath of sun. I'm going to give you a sun 7 times hotter and let it scorch you with heat. That go your righteous judgment right now. Now let Klepto and TD Fakes tell you how glorious and righteous every day is when you get that sun 7 times hotter, because this is what you've been worshiping on. Come tell me again how every day holy then. Let's hear your gainsaying when you got to deal with this. But how people are able to do it is they don't think that they're going to be around when it happens. See, hey, this ain't going to happen in our time, so we'll go ahead and get this money. So we're not going to have to worry about it. Go ahead.
Verse 27. Behold, the name of Yahweh comes from far, burning with his anger, and the burden thereof is heavy. His lips are full of indignation, and his tongue as a devouring fire. And his breath as an overflowing stream shall reach to the midst of the neck, to sift the nations with the sieve of vanity. And there shall be a bridle in the jaws of the people, causing them to err.
You have to consider this. He's going sift the nations with the sieve of vanity. When that vanity get to you, it make you feel like you justify in the mess that you're doing. See? Then there should be a bridle in the jaws of the people, causing them to err. You put a bridle in a horse mouth, and you're able to direct an animal that's 50 times stronger than you with a string. So they will be directed in their sin, turned about, led in their sin, just like it was coming out of Egypt. When it came time for judgment, Yahweh wouldn't let them repent. He said, all right, go and do this thing. But he ain't going to repent. Why? Because he ain't going to let him. He's done it too long. Now it's time to spread out judgment. So now that it's time for the nations to receive judgment, he's going to put that bridle, he's going to put that bit in their mouth, and no matter what happened, they are not going to be able to repent because they've been walking in it too long. And that's what happens. That's some people's judgment, and they don't see it. That they get stuck in it, and they can't repent. They can't stop it. They've gone too long to turn back. Let's go to Revelation chapter 16. And you're going to see that Yahweh is constant. Revelation chapter 16, and let's read verses 7 through 9.
Verse 7. And I heard another out of the altar say, even so, Adonai El Shaddai, true and righteous are your judgments. And the fourth angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and the power was given unto him to scorch men with fire.
See? Yahweh saying the same thing. So when people say, oh, that's that old covenant, brother, you reading out of bondage. All right, well, let's go read it out of the New Testament. That you going to pay for your defiling of the Sabbath. Since you want to worship the sun, Yahweh going to put that sun right in your living room. There you go. Go ahead and worship it. You wanted to worship it so bad you wanted it. Here it is. What you think that little halo is that they always paint over somebody's head? That's their little sun worshiping thing. See? What do you think the Pope show up with when he got that scepter and it's got all these rays out of it? That's a sunburst. See? When he came and he came to Yankee Stadium and it filled up the stadium. Everybody wanted to go see the Pope. It looked like it was a baseball game. Filled up to capacity. At when you looking at it, you didn't see it. When they zoomed back, you seen that he was standing in a sunburst. He's letting you know he worshiped the sun. He got a sunburst scepter, and he was standing in a sunburst, worshiping the sun, S-U-N, not sun, S-O-N. So when Yahweh give him that sun, he's giving him righteous judgment. But see, people gonna get to crying, talking about how unfair this is. Why is this happening to me? Oh, such and such. No. This is what you've been worshiping. So I'm gonna give it to you. Go ahead.
Verse 9. And when men were scorched with great heat and blasphemed the name of Elohim.
Blaspheme the name of Elohim. See, now they mad. Now God done did something wrong to us. No, he ain't. He gave you what you've been asking for. You've been asking for the sun all this time. You've been worshiping it. Y'all should meet one another. Go ahead.
Which has power over these plagues, and they repented not to give him glory.
You see that? They were stuck. They had that bridle in their mouth. They had that bit in their mouth. They stuck. They cannot repent. Even though they getting burned with great heat. They still can't stop. So here it is, you go home and you start talking to people and you start talking about the word and you want to know why they just can't understand. I remember when I was like that. Let's go to Psalms 51. I remember. Poor baby. Yes, that baby. Yeah, I remember. Because you want to believe that if you could hear it, that everybody else could hear it too. But you find out that Yahweh don't operate like that. See, this is not about intelligence. See, a man can decide that he's not going to pay attention to the instruction. You know, we was just talking about when we put together this TV stand to show the graphics. The manufacturers of stuff have completely changed direction because they knew men wasn't reading the instruction no way. So they just started making pictures. All right, yeah, put the triangle to the square. All right, then put the rectangle to the circle. You know, they don't even put in direction because men have a real problem with instruction. I don't know how many times I done heard, yeah, man, that's an extra piece. What? And then a week later, the thing's sitting over like that right here. Hey, brother, I don't think that was extra. I think we probably should have put that in there. I think we need that right there. I don't think that thing's supposed to be looking like that. Right. See? But we have a tendency to not want to follow that instruction. But see, a circumcised heart wants to know what the instructions are. Soon as we get something and we about to put it together, we skimming already. We skimming. Because we trying not to read the instructions. This too long. It's too long right here. Let me see. All right, I got the gist of it. Give me that duct tape. No, man, I don't think that came with duct tape. I don't think that's how we're supposed to put that together. Right. Well, do understand, you ain't going to be able to duct tape your salvation. Psalms 51. Let's start this at verse 1.
Have mercy upon me, O Elohim, according to your loving kindness, according unto the multitude of your tender mercies, blot out my transgressions.
Right. He's not trying to act like he don't have any transgressions. This is some of our biggest problems. Go ahead.
Wash me thoroughly from mine iniquity, and cleanse me from my sin. For I acknowledge my transgressions, and my sin is ever before me.
I acknowledge my transgression. This is our attempt at getting this circumcised heart, to acknowledge the things that we've done. It says when we get down to, it says if your brother has sinned against you, rebuke him. If he repents, forgive him. He can't repent if he trying to act like he hadn't done anything. This is what causes us. So what does that mean? If that's the equation for forgiveness, you have to consider something. If someone cannot acknowledge that they did anything, they never get the forgiveness for it. Go ahead.
Verse 4. Against you, you only, have I sinned, and done this evil in your sight, that you might be justified when you speaketh, and be clear when you judges. Behold, I was shapen in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me. Behold, you desire truth in the inward parts.
Check this out. You desire truth in the inward parts. See, there's the lie that we tell other people, and then there's the lies that we tell to ourselves. Go ahead.
And in the hidden part you shall make me to know wisdom. Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean. Wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow. Make me to hear joy and gladness, that the bones which you have broken may rejoice. Hide your face from my sins, and blot out all mine iniquities. Create in me a clean heart, O Elohim, and renew a right spirit within me. Cast me not away from your presence, and take not your Holy Spirit from me. Restore unto me the joy of your salvation, and uphold me with your free spirit. Then will I teach transgressors your ways, and sinners shall be converted unto you. Deliver me from blood guiltiness, O Elohim, you Elohim of my salvation, and my tongue shall sing aloud of your righteousness. O Adonai, open you my lips, and my mouth shall show forth your praise. For you desireth not sacrifice, or else will I give it. You delighteth not in burnt offerings. The sacrifice of Elohim are a broken spirit, a broken and a contrite heart. O Elohim, you will not despise.
Right, because it's at this time that you are at your most open point of change. See, when you have that sieve of vanity, you have that puffed up heart, that puffed up position, can't nobody steer you away from nothing. You ain't trying to hear nobody. But see, but a broken heart and a contrite spirit, now you're able to receive direction. See, it's hard to teach people or direct people who think they already know. You can't teach them people nothing, because they fighting against you the whole time. But when Yahweh leads you to that part of a broken spirit and a contrite heart, now he's able to direct it, because now he's softened up that hardened heart. Go ahead.
Do good in your good pleasure unto Zion. Build you the walls of Jerusalem. Then shall you be pleased with the sacrifices of righteousness, with burnt offering and whole burnt offering. Then shall they offer bullocks upon your altar.
All right. That's all that we're going to do for Today, we will be going over our trivia, y'all's will, at 5 p.m. Today after we eat. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.